Good evening, good evening. Welcome to, you're listening to K.I.S.S Recovery 101. This is Bridge Sky here. I'm going to be hosting this thing tonight. And I am exhausted, I'll warn you. It's been a long weekend, but guess what? I have tomorrow off. So it's okay. I'm going to chill. I'm going to take a break tonight to engage in this casual conversation. However, this person sitting next to me has a reputation, a good reputation, so far that I've heard. Don't know him on a personal day-to-day basis, but he's very much involved in recovery and service, and I've heard just crazy awesome things about this person, and literally many of my male friends are like, oh yeah, that's Whistle Sir. That's Whistle Sir. I know him. I'm like, yeah, okay. He knows like hundreds of people. So anyway, he obviously knows some magical thing here that I want to learn, because like I said, I've never heard a bad thing about you, and it's inspiring. It warms my heart, all these people that you've touched. And so anyway, let's keep it to the point. So yes, would you mind introducing yourself? And if you don't mind, maybe just share where you're at today and what you know about recovery and what it looks like for you. Full disclosure.
Hi everybody, I'm Rob H. What was the rest? What am I supposed to do now?
Elevator speech.
It's all a learning process. I don't know any more than anybody else about recovery. I know it doesn't work, and I know it doesn't work very well. So I'm still learning what does work. So it's all learning. It's nobody's got the magic potion more than anybody else. But, and as far as the sponsorship goes, typically when somebody asked me, I was told just to say yes. So I said yes quite a bit for probably about 5 years, and I've definitely dialed the numbers back quite a bit. You get a little burnt, and sometimes you got to take some you time,
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me just talk about what I know. Like I said, I don't know you personally, just more know of you. But you've shared your story at this BBQ, sober and serious thing.
Oh, God.
Oh, yeah, see, so I know more than probably than you think I do. But I actually remember my first impression of you. I attended an NA meeting at 2218. And I attended it with a partner person at the time. And, we were both fresh out of treatment. This romance weird thing. Anyway, this person was struggling finding, that connection with a sponsor, And we were, there to look for one. But anyway, you were facilitating, chairing that meeting right away. And right away, I was like, oh, this guy knows what he's talking about. And it wasn't like you were sharing anything amazing, but you were down to earth and real and, just authentic. So I kind of just, nudged him. I'm like, what do you think this guy? This guy could be a really good sponsor. But I think he, like myself still to a little bit, was a little intimidated by you because seem like you have this wealth of, knowledge in a sense of life experience. It's stuff you can't teach in books. And I feel like a lot of people, just in a short amount of time with you, can tell you know some things and just want to learn from you. So here you are today. I feel bad for him. He's looking at me like I'm a weirdo.
No, you're good.
Have you ever heard this show before? Rob?
No, I have not.
Okay.
No, I have not.
I'll give you the lowdown. So KISS is a fun acronym. It's keep it simple, stupid.
I am aware of this, yes.
Okay, so keep it simple, stupid. I like it. It humbles me, and it brings me to that awareness, calm down. You don't need to make this so complicated. But hence, that's where the Recovery 101 is. I really try to keep it simple. And a lot of the readings or meetings or anything that I go to, I like to, how I process is then I sit down and make my notes, or I have a good conversation with someone, and I simplify the shit out of it. Because especially to recovery or any new path you're trying or any new meeting, especially someone who's been doing it for a while might just share all this stuff, and it's too much. It's overwhelming. So I break it down week by week, new stuff I've learned or old stuff I'd like to repick at, and so I invited you here. Okay, so here's a funny story, listeners. I asked, first of all, he said yes, I was like, yeah, okay. But then I said, well, is there a specific topic? Rob, you want to share with the listeners what I asked? Is there anything you want to talk about? What would you say?
I just said people's bullshit.
People's bullshit.
Yeah.
So that was pretty wide open, general, vague statement. So I'm like, okay, where can I go with this?
at work. So I was like, I can't go too in depth on my phone when I'm at work, So I just, people's bullshit. There's a lot of it, so including my own. And I was like, whatever she could do with that, because if I just throw it out there and it's a very broad topic, she can do all the picking, and I don't, whatever, as long as it falls under that category, I'm fine.
And we're gonna turn a positive light on it, a positive reflection. But I love that you said you were at work, because there's normies, normal people's, in a lot of workplaces, bullshit, and then there's people in recovery. That's a whole new level of bullshit.
Yes, absolutely.
And I find that, especially because I've been doing some reading, this was great, fun to research and figure out this simplified version. I knew I lied to myself a lot and BS myself a lot, but really on a daily basis, how much I gotta check myself. So, and what do they say? It takes one to know one. Bullshit sees bullshit. I can hear and see it pretty quickly. However, as a sponsor myself, or a recovery navigator, someone who's trying to work with people or support with people, I now will ask, I wonder what's going on here. Why is those BS walls coming up? I try to carefully not scare them off, and not make them, I don't want them to think that I'm being judgmental, but I know that they're on defense mode for a reason. And it takes a while to understand if it's more within themselves, or if it's a negative thing where it's a manipulation thing. It could be all kinds of things. So it takes a while. It took me almost 2 decades. So here we go. Okay, so I sent Rob this great clip. And what the focus tonight is about lying. Oh, I found some great websites. I'm just going to share all this great stuff, Rob. So tonight we're going to talk about, first of all, the definition of denial. I looked this up because I just wanted to clarify. So what does denial mean? It's refusing to admit the truth or reality of something unpleasant. Definition number 1 says refusal to satisfy a request or a desire, the denial of privileges, refusal to admit the truth. And this is pretty spot on. But this one article is actually going to give us 10 ways to stop lying to yourself, Bridge. Okay? So if you go to lifehack.org, we're not going to go into the full depths of all 10, but I'm going to let Rob read these in a minute. But we're going to play this clip because I feel like I want to get your insights on what you really thought about the clip. And I feel like it's a good conversation starter. Okay? You said you liked the clip, right?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you just asked me to listen to it. You didn't ask me to analyze it.
Well, we're gonna analyze it live on air, listeners. Right. Okay.
Roll them dice.
So this show's about an hour. Okay, it is live, and I like that part of it because I want the listeners to interact, ask questions, comments, anything that your insights, your viewpoints, any of your experiences. Rob's sitting here today. He's gonna be a victim as well. We're going to do the best we can to respond. So, but first, the clip is, I'm really into these motivation videos, and a lot of them I find are about life or business or success, but I totally immediately correlate them to recovery. This is a beautiful thing. Okay, so this one's called You're Not Special. Inspirational video from Motivation Hub on YouTube. Okay, so here we go. It's 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Last August, I was told that in all likelihood I had 3 to 6 months left to live. Somebody said to me, in light of those numbers, wow, so you're really beating the Grim Reaper. And what I said without even thinking about it is that we don't beat the Reaper by living longer. We beat the Reaper by living well and living fully. For the Reaper will come for all of us. The question is, what do we do between the time we're born and the time he shows up? Because when he shows up, it's too late to do all the things that you're always going to kind of get around to.
It is our failure to become our perceived ideal that ultimately defines us and makes us unique. It's not easy. But if you accept your misfortune and handle it right, your perceived failure can become a catalyst for profound reinvention. Exercise free will and creative independent thought, not for the satisfactions they will bring you, but for the good they will do others, the rest of the 6.8 billion, and those who will follow them. And then, you too will discover the great and curious truth of the human experience is that selflessness is the best thing you can do for yourself. The sweetest joys of life, then, come only with the recognition that you're not special. Because everyone is.
Let's talk about what nobody wants to talk about. Who here's ever failed? Who here has failed miserably at something you wanted to achieve? When you failed, why did you fail? I failed because I didn't have enough money, didn't have the right technology, I had the wrong people. It was the economy, bad economy. Not enough time, didn't have enough time. Everything you people have told me, I didn't have the technology, I didn't have the right contacts, I didn't have the time, I didn't have money. Everything you've told me, I didn't have enough Supreme Court justices. Those are resources. And so you're telling me I failed because I didn't have the resources, and I'm here to tell you what you already know. Resources are never the problem. It's a lack of resourcefulness is why you failed. Because the ultimate resources are emotional states. If you're creative enough, can you find the answer? Yes or no? If you're determined enough, can you find the breakthrough? Yes or no? If you're passionate, loving enough, can you get someone to help you? Yes or no? If there's no way that you're committed, can you find the money even if you don't have it? Yes or no? So I said creativity, decisiveness, passion, honesty, sincerity, love. These are the ultimate human resources.
This isn't the time to quit. This isn't the time to feel bad for yourself and point the finger and play the blame game of who did what to you. This is the time to reinvent yourself. And you have that power. You have that ability that you wake up with every single day to completely reimagine who you are when you do it.
Ooh, that's a good one. Will you do it? Okay, so Rob, what do you think of that clip? You talk a lot. I feel like I'm talking too much.
Well, there's a lot of different subjects, I suppose. Like the one that stuck out to me the most would be turn your pain into purpose, essentially. And I think that probably falls under the umbrella of us addicts, and that's probably why the video spoke to you, and then you in turn sent it to me, and you're like, oh yeah, okay, because a lot of us come from complete defeat, and we can turn out to be pretty productive members of society, and it's a beautiful thing. It's also another thing too about the video is that you stand in your own way, more times than not. It all starts with what you tell yourself, because right away if you're telling yourself, hey, I can't do this, well, are you gonna do it? No. You know what I mean? No, you're not gonna do it. You just said you weren't gonna do it. And then if you say, hey, maybe I'm gonna do this, you're already setting yourself up to not do it. You know what I'm saying? But if you can tell yourself right out the gate that hey, 1, you can do this, 2, it's possible, and 3, you're gonna do it. Because if not, man, you're just setting yourself up. It all starts with what you tell yourself. And I know it's true for me, and I'm sure it's true for plenty of others out there. And that's just the thing too, is that I think my problems are bad, and I look at some people's problems that have been in my path in the past 6 years, and I'm adding them up, and I'm like, well, when I look at their problems, mine aren't that bad. I'm like, so it kind of puts things in perspective. I don't do a whole lot of the motivational videos. I always feel that they have some ulterior motive to them. Oh, yeah, by the way, I sell these products too.
Right.
You know what I mean? And here's the advertisement for it. Oh, yeah. Ha, 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 so I'm not really one into those motivational videos, but, every now and then somebody will send me something. And, I did actually look at that one that you sent me. Typically, I just tell people, yep, I watched it. I sure did, because, I don't know, for some reason, my phone seems to ring the most when I'm at work and when I'm, not able to answer it, and when I'm, bored and ain't got nothing to do, it's crickets, So, a lot of times it's, I'm working and I don't you know, you get a couple of one-worded answers from me. Just keep it simple, just like the name of the podcast. So, yeah, life hack. Get out of your own way and turn your pain into purpose.
I love that. Well, and I find that one of the things I liked about the clip was, you know, I think
Did it make you want to get up and go do something? Did it?
Oh,
did
yes.
it motivate you? You're like, whoa, what am I doing here? Sitting here in this weird little closet. I gotta get out
well,
of here.
and you're right about yes. The whole, like, you know, them selling the thing. That's why I just picked the little clips these people put together. The good pieces of those expensive retreat stuff you go on. I don't do that. But
Yeah.
I like that he said, you know, all the excuses, because that was me. Well, it's because of my ex. It's because of this divorce. It's because of the lawyers. Oh, now it's because of CPS. It's their fault. It's the lawyers. It's the judges. It's all BS. So it's all BS in myself. And at the end of the day, it was because I was too scared to really do the action, to really do the things. But what he says, Tony Robbins in the one clip, is he says, it's not about the resources. It's about you and your ability to be resourceful, right? So if you really want something, and we talk about this a lot in the rooms, is, you know, what did we do? What extents did we go to get that substance that we wanted at whatever different times, right? I went to many lengths, right? So a lot of things they say and repeat I hear in the rooms is that you know, that ability to do that for the negative, put that into the positive. And so how I flipped it, and I am still my own worst enemy, but I was imprisoned in my mind because I would talk myself out of things. I don't think anymore. I just do. I just do. Like sponsoring. If someone told me to do it, like you said, you see people ask you to do stuff, you just do it. I don't think about it anymore because I'll just talk myself out of it. Yeah. But just doing the action, and that's helped me build resources and resourcefulness within, and confidence within myself, basically.
Well, I mean, and it just goes, I mean, you know, not even recovery. I mean, just everyday life, you know. It's not what you know, it's who you know. You know, and more times than not, you know. And I think that, like, you know, like you can do that just in your personal life and just network. You know, like if you're in a chosen field and you get your name out there, you know, and something falls through at the job that you're at now, but everybody knows you in the field that you're in, man, you're basically setting yourself up for, you know, a future endeavor that you never know. You know, so it helps to be resourceful.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, get out there.
Creative.
Have people know you. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, instead of just kind of, you know, and like, to be honest, I didn't really ever set out to have as many people know me as they do, you know, but I guess I just have I think it's all the tattoos that people just seem to remember me, and I'm just like, yeah, that's a lot. I've been a lot of different places in 6 years, and you know, if you work your recovery, you're going to do some traveling, you're going to meet some people, and, you know, you're going to open up your eyes a little bit to other things in life, and you know, it's not just so one-dimensional. You know, like, my friends don't just look like me, you know? Like, there's not, like, a whole bunch of, like, white tattooed up dudes that, like, hang out at my house or anything. You know what I mean? Like, it's all different walks nowadays, you know? Religious backgrounds, preference, I don't care, you know? Like, you can catch me hanging out with, mainly dogs, though, I'll tell you that. You know, mainly hanging out with dogs, but, you know, my circle doesn't consist of just one stereotype.
Absolutely.
So, you know, it's definitely broadened my horizons, and
Oh, there's the first alarm.
You say what?
There's the first alarm.
What does that mean?
It just reminds me to interact with the listeners that we do have comments.
Oh,
Rob, you ready?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Oh, Bahana's on. Okay.
Who?
Bahana is the radio host of the Rise Up Hour. And he said, that's amazing. Denial and lying people really struggle with that, and then they cross them over. That messes them up. Oh my gosh, yes, I was messed up for so long. So, can I ask you some personal questions?
No.
I mean, you don't have to answer.
I don't care. Yeah,
Okay.
What?
So, you know, how did you finally, like, when do you think was the moment when you could cross over and in turn give back, start feeling, you know, sponsoring and doing service and doing all the things that you do?
Well,
helping other people.
I mean, that varies from person to person and program to program. You know, if you work one of the A's they're going to tell you is as long as you've worked the 12 steps. And there's another one of the A's that says you got to have a year, you know. And then there's another one that says this and another one that says that. So, I mean, everybody's recovery can look different. You know, it's not like it was in 1954, you know, or whatever, you know, or 1960, you know. It's 2022, you know. So there's so many different ways and avenues to go that, like, and that's another thing too that's really sad is that like there could be some really toxic person that's like, oh, I'm good enough to be a sponsor. Like, yeah, okay, here's what you do: you lie to everybody and you try to sleep with every newcomer you can. You know, like who knows? I mean, there's probably some people out there giving some really toxic advice, and that could be life threatening. You know, so there's that too. It's also like. And some people, you know, they want to hear their own voice. It's like, well, do I? And then another thing too is that number one, you got to believe that like you're able to reach somebody, and that like you're a person that can give, you know, quote unquote life advice. You know, sponsorship, sponsorly advice. You know, because I know in the beginning it was like I didn't think that, you know, and I still don't, you know, think that like I would be somebody that would be asked to sponsor so many times. I've been asked quite a few times, and it's like I still kind of think about that, like, you know, I got to remember that, like, you know, like just because I tell myself something's true doesn't mean that it's true. You know what I mean? So it's also like the thing is too with sponsorship is that, you know, it's really a two-way street. You know, and the thing is too is, you know, the longer that you stay in the program, man, like I'll be honest with you, you know, like there were some things that early on I saw somebody do, and I would judge them, you know. And I'll tell you what, fast forward 4 or 5 years, man, I've done those same things in recovery. So, you know, it's been a learning experience on, like, you know, number one, who am I to judge? And, you know, number two, like, that hasn't happened to me yet, whether that be in active addiction or recovery, you know. Because, like, number one, tomorrow's not promised to us. Yes. You know, and number two, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm one use away from anywhere anybody else could be, you know. It's not... You know, like I was just telling Bridge, you know, before the show started, I got a friend that, you know, just got caught with a very large amount of narcotics. And it's like, man, he's probably looking at the rest of his life in prison, you know, and I look at that and I'm like, well, you know, at least my reality isn't that bad, you know. You know, you learn a lot from people. You know, and it's a two-way street, like I said, and you know, more times than not, I learn more from them than they do from me.
Oh yes, 100%.
You know, so, and a lot of times, man, I'll call them for, you know, you know, the tables will turn. So
yes, when you could start to build that.
So it's essentially like that's the hard part is like, who am I to decide? You know, I do think that like whoever does decide they're gonna mentor / sponsor somebody should. You know, be free of like, you know, criminal activity, you know, just a little rule of thumb, you know what I mean? And I don't know, make sure your ducks are in order, I guess, and you're not giving somebody bad advice that could end up to them dying. Right. You know, because essentially that's what it's about, you know, jails, institutions, and death. You know, it's not like it was 30 years ago. I mean, it still was, but it's worse now. You know, it's almost a guaranteed death sentence. There was, you know, there's been people that. I'm like, oh, well, they're just, you know, they just drink alcohol. They'll be fine. Yeah, no, that's probably the worst one out there, if you ask me, in my opinion, you know, so, you know, oh, they're just a meth addict. They'll just go on for 10 years and, you know, use a bunch of meth and probably have some strokes, but they won't die, you know, but now I'm seeing people, you know, dying from that too, you know, and it's just like, wow.
Well, fentanyl problems everywhere.
Yeah, they got fentanyl and, you know, not to mention all the other paranoia that comes along with it. I don't think, you know, any of it's any bit better than the rest of it, so.
Right. Well, let's talk about that, because I'll be honest, Rob, I still lie to myself.
Yeah.
I mean, it's instinctive, and what I love about what I read, okay, I'm just going to read a little bit from this lifehack.org. So getting caught up in your own lies can devalue your sense of self-worth, distort your view of reality, and negatively affect your close relationships. So here's 10 ways to stop lying to yourself. 1, stop taking constructive criticism as a personal attack. Did you find that you struggle with that one?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know?
Most definitely. Yeah, most definitely. I was talking with a sponsor about that the other day, that, like, you know, if I'm, you know, in a spiritual good spot, I'm not going to think like that.
Right.
You know, but I mean, I could slip into that too, depending on the day. You know, depending on the time.
Right.
You know, and you know, because how do I know what somebody else is thinking? I don't know. I have no idea. You know, and the thing is that like, you know, if I just rely on like, you know, my personal tools, like I know to be aggressive, you know, and get upset because anytime somebody gave me constructive criticism, it wasn't constructive criticism. It was just straight criticism, you know?
Yes.
So,
that's
a hard one.
point.
It's hard to really know. And that's another thing, too, is that, like, you know, I'll tell you this, too. Not everybody in recovery is your friend. You know, and I'll tell you that, like, you know, not everybody in the rooms has your best interest at heart. You know, and that's something that I really had to learn over time, you know?
Yes.
And but anyways, yeah. Stop taking criticism as a personal attack.
Well, let me read the next sentence. It says, there is a difference between being an overly critical bully and an honest and helpful friend. So that opens it up to, you know, for me, absolutely, if my friends or my people in my circle that I've built that relationship and trust with, absolutely, I want them to call me out on my shit because I'm probably just not aware of it, or, you know, I just haven't been able to address it. And you know, definitely, of course, I get defensive. But as soon as I feel like, ooh, I'm going to react, you know, I got to say something back, I'm like, well, nope, this means I need to pause, process, think about it. But yeah, if some person who I barely know, or, you know, we don't have that connection, say some things, I'm just immediately thinking, this is about them. Something's going on with them. And I'm not going to... definitely not going to say anything right now. I'm going to think about this and maybe see if I can help them with their issues. Okay. But I think that the number one thing is like, you're right. Like what you said, if you're good inside and you're feeling good on the inside, you know, nothing should falter you what someone else says. I mean, that's easier said than done. This reality check. So number 2, you want to read that one?
Stop trying to convince everyone that you're right.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know about that one. I mean, I don't go
really
out of my way.
with that one.
I don't go out of my way. Yeah. Number 3, realize that the fun is in the effort. And it just says, face it. Very few people get to claim that they are the best at something and really mean it. However, most of the time, there's always going to be someone better than you at anything. So, but that doesn't mean it's not worth doing it. And even if you're not the world's best pianist or even biggest whatever, it doesn't mean there's not still enjoyment to be had in that activity. And if things were only worth doing, if you're the best, how would you ever try to do something new? So, yeah, I don't know about this one either. Like, realize that the fun is in the effort. Okay. Take chances. Number 4. I like that a lot. Okay. This is papers. First out the papers. Stop putting things. Number 5. Stop putting things off until tomorrow. Absolutely. I think we know 24 hours, right? Yeah. Live in the moments. 6. Quit doubting yourself. That's inner mean girl. My inner mean girl's a bitch. She doubts my ideas and my knowledge a lot, but you know, I'm getting better on the self-talk. Like, nah, you got this experience. You've been doing things pretty well. And just keep going. And trial and error, I've been learning as I go. Number 7, you feel free to stop me at any point. Number 7, consider others' points of view. Absolutely. Just being open-minded, right? Yep. Number 8, realize when you've taken on too much.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, would you say so? Learning when to say no.
Do that. Yeah, I watch a lot of people do that, and you know, I don't know. Like me personally, in my later days, I've you know, I do say no quite a bit more. You know, and I'll tell you what, you know, like my circle's a lot smaller, and you know that's okay. You know, like because sometimes it's just you know, I don't hear from somebody for X amount of time, and then they need something, and okay, that's cool, you know, but then I don't hear from them for another year, and it's like, I go through some things, you know, and it's like, well, where were you, you know, and I think that, and said, no, but it's also, you know, you can't just bend over backwards for people and just keep on doing it, because eventually you're going to come up with some serious anxiety, you know, that's what's going to happen, is that you're going to set your feelings aside, you know, just like number 10 here, but we're not there yet, but you're going to set that aside, you know.
Ooh, you're a fast reader.
Them unresolved emotions, you know, turn into anxiety, you know. So I mean, there's a lot of things that, like, you know, I've had to learn myself in recovery, and saying no is one of them.
Yes.
You know, because I said yes to everything, you know.
Yeah.
You want to sponsor me? Yeah. Now I'm just like, hey, here's my number, call me tomorrow, you know.
Yeah.
And then they call me, and then I'm like, okay, call me the next day. And then typically, like, they don't call that second day. But after the third day, then they can ask me to sponsor them. But more times than not, they're not gonna, call me the 3 days in a row. And
that's very minimal to ask. But that's a great way to gauge if they're serious about
it's
it.
just a pain in the ass. I mean, how many times have I, especially even, buying the workbooks and stuff. I don't mind doing it, don't get me wrong, but I've learned my lesson that, like, I just can't keep blowing, $300 on other people's books that don't even make it,
Oh, that's yes.
I could maybe dial that number down a bit, but I bought a lot of books. I did a lot of things, that, like, and it's not, I don't know, I think just over time you just kind of get a little bit burnt out over it, and I definitely dialed it back quite a bit, but
it's draining.
Yeah.
And it says, it's don't be afraid to say no. Chances are you're not going to hurt anyone's feelings by saying no every now and then. And that's reality. You got to set boundaries because, yes, I was taken advantage of in the beginning, because I really didn't feel like I knew what I was doing. And I was, putting myself in them shoes. And I'm like, this is what I would want for someone to do for me. And I was going way above and beyond. And at the end of the day, when they, they're not going to be on the same page as me, and so they go back out and I took it personal. I felt like a failure, like, man, and so I realized, just through experience and just doing the best that I can do. And one thing I would suggest to you, Rob, is that right away when someone seems like they're really serious and we meet one-on-one, I say, just so you know, like, I'm not here to give you advice. Okay. I'm never going to give you advice. I will give you suggestions and guidance in the best of my abilities to the experiences that I have, but never think.
Isn't advice?
See, there's a better word.
You're just wording it.
It's a better word. Here's what I learned though, because they can't then say, "Well, you told me to do this. This was your advice that you gave me."
Suggested.
If it's suggested, I suggested that. What you did with this, you. But number 9, don't give up. Okay, it says sometimes we can be a little quick to admit defeat, but before giving up, stop to consider your option. There may be options. There may be another way. And number 10, let's talk about this one. Don't ignore your feelings, right? Yeah. If you have to tell yourself you don't care, chances are that you do. And instead of turning a cold shoulder on a friend or a loved one, admit that you're hurt. And while you may not change their mind, you may find an unexpected compromise. Do you find it hard as a male to admit that you're hurt?
No.
You'll just say that right out?
No, yeah.
See, that's probably why you have this, you have a following.
I've learned to say that. I mean,
there's a lot of people that can't admit it.
There's ways that you say it too. I mean, you could become violent, and that's a way of saying it, and that's what a lot of guys learn. In the streets and coming in, that that's how you conduct yourself, and then just over time, you just gotta kind of learn that that's just not working. Mm-hmm. It just don't.
Well, what's that saying? I found a new saying.
Hurt people.
Yes.
That one was mind blowing. When I first got here, I was like, oh, that's been happening the whole time.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I've learned in my time that some people use that as an excuse.
Absolutely.
So I've found someone else who's enlightened me, and they said, healed people heal people. And I loved that, because when I feel like I'm not doing well, or I'm hurt, or whatever, I get those days where I'm just like, I shouldn't be sponsored. Nobody suggestions, like I need to sit my ass down and stop. I realized it's taken a lot to get to this point that I am in I'll never be fully healed, let's be honest, but
right.
I have healed a lot. I've come such a long way, and that I want to give out. I need to give out. And there's so many people that are struggling that any kind of, healings, suggestions are welcomed,
Yeah, I think, that is one of the things that makes me chuckle the most is when somebody's like, yeah, I've recovered. Oh, really? Oh, yeah. Okay. So everything's just back to normal, and you don't have that problem no more. It's just you're
the
okay.
One substance issue.
Yeah, I'm recovered. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. So, I don't know. Maybe I just don't understand some things, but I know that if I tell myself I'm recovered, what more am I gonna learn?
Right. That's like shutting yourself off.
It's just like
that's a really good point.
And I don't know. It doesn't make me chuckle, but what? To each his own.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing too, is that I can't just be so close-minded. And some people do identify as recovered. Whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense to me. Just like having one. I don't have that thought that like, yeah, I want one. No, if I want one, one would be all, everything, all of them, all the time.
Yeah,
you know, that's my one. So
yes,
you know, I don't know.
Well, and I like to say, bridge recovery. But see, I even simplified my introduction. I'm just like, because otherwise, you want me to be full disclosure. These are all the things that, you know, I'm in recovery for. But I don't like putting that negative label on myself. Because for me, it's negative. That's just me. You know, I see people that have these great introductions and they're, you know, loud and proud and that's what their comfort zone is. But for me, it was a prison. Like I said, it was in my own mind. But it felt like, why am I calling myself, you know, an addict or an alcoholic when I haven't used now in over 2 years? I'm not, you know, I mean, I realize that, like you said, it takes one use to go right back into that ditch. But that's like that, whatever, it's self-projecting, it's that thing that...
Self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yes! You got it. Yeah. That's really what it was, because if I say bridge, alcoholic, bridge, addict, it's almost like in my mind started going into... Well, if you're just going to call yourself that, why don't you just go ahead and, you know. So the fact that I say I'm in recovery, for me, is like this positive, like, I'm in recovery, doing this thing every day, like working on myself, you know, every day. And I don't know, it's inspiring to me, but everyone should identify as they wish. But yeah, okay, so let's get out of it. Where are we at on time? Holy smokes, we're flying. Okay, so Rob, there's 2 segments in this show. So this next segment coming up is called the hot seat.
The hot seat,
It's a fire seat. And it means there's 3 hot and heavy questions that I wrote that I'm going to ask you. And they're meant to be deeper questions. They're not really meant to make you uncomfortable, although some of my guests got a little hot under the collar. Yeah. But really, it's something more deeper that, you know, it's not your everyday conversation, but someone out there listening, something you say, they might be like, oh, shit. Yeah, you know, like connect with that and not feel so alone, or that they were the only ones that had that same similar thinking. Because that was me in isolation. And yeah, so there's 3 questions, and what's nice is I kind of made them somewhat similar to our conversation here.
Well, that's neat.
Is this okay?
I'm excited.
Okay, so let's just get it. Oh, wait, I have sound effects, Rob. I try to sound not so small potatoes over here. Okay, you ready? This is gonna sound like, hopefully it works. Okay, this gotta work now. Come on. Oh shit! I have the settings. So while I get this set up, can you answer me a question? What's the first thing have you ever noticed that you lie about to yourself? Like when you started early, new in recovery, is there anything that you're like? Was there an aha moment, like, holy shit, like, I didn't even realize I was in denial about this, lying to myself?
I think, you know, more times than not with relationships, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, oh, this is definitely good for me, you know? Mm-hmm. Knowing that it's not, you know, especially, like, my first relationship in recovery, it was yeah. You know, so, and I definitely lied to myself, like, oh, yeah, she's healthy. Yeah, she wasn't very healthy, but, you know.
Oh, my gosh, I just went to a great meeting.
That's one of them, typically, you know, that goes with that. And, you know, I'll lie to myself about anything. You know, I'm an addict. That's what I do. I'll lie to myself, and I'll lie to myself until I believe it, and then once I believe it, I'll start behaving it, and once I start behaving it, you know.
It's a cycle.
And then I get to the end, and I'm like, oh, no, even though I knew what was going to happen, and I did it anyways, I get to the end, and I'm like, oh, what happened? Knowing what happened. And, you know, the mind of an addict is a very messy place. You know, I commonly say that. And, you know, depending on what, you know, your addict looks like, I know that typically they say that, what is it, the average on this is another loosely quoted statistic that I've heard, is that, you know, the non-addict has, what was it, like between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day or something, and the addict has like 65 to 80 or something like that.
Oh, I believe that.
10,000 more thoughts.
Throw ADHD in there too.
Yeah, so, but I've also heard a lot of different numbers on this statistic, so, I mean, obviously it's not, you know, a very solid fact, but I mean, it does make sense.
It does make sense.
And the longer that I've stayed in recovery, the more that I've learned that, like, oh, well, that's what they were talking about, you know? Because in the beginning, I would go to meetings and somebody would be like, oh, I'm just an addict. Man, you need to stop blaming that shit on being an addict.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And then, you know, fast forward sometime down, like, you know, 3-4 years down the road, I'm like, fuck, man, this is what they were talking about.
Yes.
You know, so I
awareness.
I can sit here and judge all I want, you know, until I've walked a mile in their shoes too. So
right.
You know.
Does this sound hot, listeners? It's a fire sound. It's supposed to be hot.
It's the same one.
Hot seat. I know. Well, I didn't. You didn't acknowledge it earlier, so I just wanted to make sure everybody hears how hot these questions are about to be. Okay, here we go. Enough with the silliness. Okay. Rob, question number 1.
And we just had a question. What the
yes,
you, that was question
fell for that. That's not the official hot seat question. Official hot seat question number 1, Rob. How, you don't get to look at them. How can you tell when someone is lying or BSing you? Is there any, like, certain tone of voice, any facial expressions, actions?
It depends on the
but
person.
what, like, the red flag right away?
Well, everybody knows this one, eye contact. But see, that's the thing, too.
That's false.
Yeah, I know. I was just going to say that. But it's also, it depends on the person. If you really want to know when somebody's lying to you, ask them a question that you know they're going to lie to you about. And whatever they do non-verbally, that's what they're going to do every time that they lie, regardless.
Interesting.
It's just something with the human psyche. But if they're trained to that and they're aware of that, maybe they can get around that. But more times than not, like, ask them a question that you know they're going to lie to you about. Whatever they're doing non-verbally, that's what they're going to do the next time they lie to you. So that's one way to, you know, to figure it out. And 2, you got to get to know the person. You know, because not everybody's, you know, gonna bullshit you the same way, you know. And some people are just, you know, generally really honest. You know, very rare, but you know. And another thing is too is that, like, you know, sometimes like, you know, like you were saying earlier, like, we're not even aware of the bullshit. You know, and you know, the thing is too is that, like, you know, once you're to a point where you can't receive the information that is given, it's kind of pointless to even say anything. You know, like, I'll know somebody's lying to me, and I don't even call them out on it,
right?
Because I know they're gonna lie to me again, and then I'm gonna get upset. You know, so I just like, oh, okay, all right, yep, you know, and then I watch as their shit implodes.
Yeah.
You know, and then at the end I'm like, hey, you know, I knew you were lying to me, right? Yeah, but why didn't you say anything? Because you were gonna lie to me again. Right. You know what I'm saying?
What was the point?
You got to figure out what your own truth is in that. So it all depends. It all depends on the person. But I just assume everybody's lying.
See? and that's the reality is, I think a lot of people, because I will pause, you know, I hesitate on, because I can be full truth disclosure, especially in the rooms, but I pause because I'm like, do they really want to know the full truth? You know, and so like right away, I've had a couple people be like, are you lying about something? It's like, I'm really pausing for your benefit, but if you want me to be full disclosure, you got to be more specific on these questions that you're asking me, because I might be, that's where I'm still working on.
I might be stretching the truth just a
I
little
might be
bit.
Protecting myself. I might be protecting myself. I mean, that happens naturally with bosses or cops or whatever. I just but on the other side of it, when it's someone that I respect, or I just really care about what they think of me, in a sense, you know, I don't want to lose whatever I think that our relationship is, or their respect or whatever. I'll answer the question, but I want to make sure that they're ready for it, in a sense. I don't know. I way overthink, perhaps. This is why I try to be simple about things. Okay. Question number 2. Why do you lie? Because we're all human. We all have, and we'll go into there's this great thing that talks about the types of lies we're going to talk about, but why do you lie? What's your first thought on that?
Why do I lie, or when do I lie?
Both. Now you open that.
Typically, it's usually for somebody else.
Right.
You know.
Explain that.
For the most part, I'm generally pretty honest, but you know, I mean, I'm human, you know, like you said. So I mean, it's not like I'm not gonna sit here and say like, oh, I don't never tell a lie, because that's a lie. You know. I think that, like, you know, being straight up with people is just always the best bet. And like, and if I gotta be in a place where like I have to lie to somebody, I don't put myself in that place again. You know what I mean? You know, because like, I mean, there's situations where I've had to lie. You know, And it was very uncomfortable, especially like when I don't stand behind that, and it's like, okay. But then, like, I don't, and here's the deal, is that, like, I don't even say anything to the person about it. I just cut them off. Because if you don't have enough intuition to tell me that, like, what you're doing is wrong, then why am I going to point it out to you if you don't even know? You know what I mean? You know what you should know by now, but... You know what I'm saying? Not everybody's on that same page,
Right.
But, at work, I lie at work because I'm in the trades and I'm union, so our labor costs a lot of money. And the first time on a job site that I I knocked a big hole in the wall, I walked up to the drywall super who happened to be on site, and I told him about it, and he was standing next to the architect. And he kind of pulled me aside a little later. He said, "Don't ever do that again." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, now we can't backcharge him." And I'm like, "Oh, so it's just it's not in good practice." But he kind of had a point, So it's been kind of ingrained in my head. I've broken some pretty expensive things at work and lied about it, And yeah, it's a write-off, but I'm just doing what I was told, right? So typically, usually it's other people that I lie for, but like I said, I'm not perfect, and so like I said, at work, I'll lie, and sometimes it's like I'll lie about, like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, because if I say some things the way that I think them, it's, you know what I mean, it's gonna be bad.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean, and that's just part of my flawed thinking. So it's like I kind of gotta, like, let my thoughts kind of filter through before I say anything about something, because I'll tell you what, like, like my first instinct is usually to get angry, in regards to anything, and I've learned quite a bit in these last 6+ years of not being so angry, and for those of you who know me are like, yeah, man, that doesn't work. I know the progress that I've made in the last 6 years, so and it's not like I just woke up one day and it was like, okay, well, I'm not going to be angry anymore, and it just all worked out. That's just not how it works out. So
there's a lot of idiots in the world.
Well, and
bring
it's
out
also
that
like,
anger.
Well, why am I angry? More times than
Right.
not, it's because my feelings were hurt. Well, why were my feelings hurt? And the shitty thing is that, like, my feelings have been hurt so many times in recovery that, like, recently I've been, like, I've been withholding my feelings, so they don't get hurt. You know what I mean? And that's also equally unhealthy. So,
Yes.
I still have negative coping skills and whatnot that I still have to battle through too, and it comes and goes. I can sit here and tell you that, like, I've been more spiritually fit at 6 months than I did at 5 years. Depending on what I'm going through in my life, I can tell you where it's at too, and I can tell you that, like, the more meetings that I go to, like, generally my outlook and quality of life is higher than it is without, so.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to backtrack on. You just gave me pearls of wisdom. What you said, little minute. I love that you just said, at the end of the day, if you find that you have to keep lying to that person, whatever capacity that is, whatever that relationship is, that's a moment that I now will use too, like, to reflect on, if I have to completely, like, start to not be myself, or feel like I have to hold back or hide things or sugarcoat things, and this is more, more to people that I value their friendships or relationships, then maybe I need to step. And you know what? I think I'm thinking out loud here. Benefit of the doubt. Yes, listen, beware. Benefit of the doubt. People that I care about, friends and people in recovery or whatever. Oh my goodness. We got to get into the memes. That's the next segment. Is those people that I care, I will pull aside and say, hey, here's where I'm at. Here's what's going on. Let's have a dialogue. And if they get defensive, they're still whatever about it and it's not going to work, then that's when I will set them aside. Now, people that I'm doing service or working with or just meeting, I'll just take a pause. I'm not going to take all that time to explain these things. Now, if they care and they reach out back to me like, hey, what's going on? I noticed this. Then, again, I'll open that door. But I found that, with help, 2 years I've been trying to help a lot of people. I find that I can't have those ideas anymore. Like, I'm going to step up and give them the time if they're going to step up and they actually want that time. But if they don't and they show that through actions or whatever, I'm not going to waste my time anymore. This is unhealthy. Okay, so last question, and then we're going to do this last segment, which is my favorite. It's called Live Facebook Memes, Rob. You know what memes are, right?
Yeah.
Okay, thank God. Okay.
Yeah.
So a couple guests have no idea what memes were. It was exhausting to explain why it's supposed to be funny.
Whoops.
But I'm going to flash you from my phone, and actually the listeners can see the memes, but I still like you to describe them because some of them don't have ability. They can only hear on the phone. You're going to describe the meme and then read it or whatever. And then like Facebook, but live here. This is the best part, is I get your reaction. So whether it's hearts, laugh out loud, angry, and then you're free to comment, just like in Facebook. But it's live, and I get to share my memes with you and the listeners, okay? So, okay, just you should see his face. It's good that you can't. Last question, and then we're going right into the memes. Rob, question number 3. What was the worst thing you said to someone? You can take a minute. Make it good and juicy.
The worst thing that I said to someone?
What's the worst thing that you've said to someone, and don't have it be just someone that you didn't know or care about. Someone that you cared about or loved. What's the worst thing, whatever point in life, you know that you said that you was really bad? I asked this question because yesterday I heard the speaker, and she was sharp with the tongue, and there was moments I thought, oh man, there was some things that I said that were really awful. And that's why I lie sometimes, because I don't want them to know.
I mean, that's a tough one.
What comes to your head?
Obviously, fighting with my parents when I was a teenager, wishing they were dead, stuff like that, that's and me and my dad got in a fatal car accident, almost fatal, when I was 18, and I remembered it brought it up like how many times I said, hey, I wish you were dead, and like I realized that wasn't true, and then I don't know, obviously, in relationship stuff, there's been some things that, like, I don't know, obviously since I've been clean, it has been a lot nicer and stuff like that, but I'll say that too, that like even clean, I've said some things that, like, I had kind of regretted, and at the time it was, I was being passionate about something, but it was like, I don't know, I can't really take it back. I could have made amends for it, but, thanks for nothing. That was something I had said to somebody that was probably, I probably shouldn't have said that.
You're heated, a little heated and passionate about it.
Yeah. But that was quite some time ago, and I don't say those things anymore, and I try to not get so emotionally involved with any situation to where I'm reacting that way. Which is kind of, I've been trying to decide if that's been a bad thing or a good thing. Because
Finding a balance.
It could be a bad thing. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and it could be my disease trying to, get me right where it wants me. So there's that as well. I don't know.
That's a great answer.
Yeah.
I see. This is what I love, is that I get to ask you these questions, and I think about the answers in my head, and they get to stay in my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's the worst thing that you ever said to somebody? Let me ask you.
Well, the first thing that came to mind was my sister always held this against me. And I think she still would go around telling people that I said this. It's not even that bad, but it is, because I knew it would hurt her. But she hurt me, and so I'm adopted. She's not my blood sister, and so whatever happened, I finally said what I knew would hurt her heart, and I said, well, it doesn't even matter, because you know what? You're not my sister anyway.
Oh, yeah.
But it's not fair, because in a sense, she used that to really remind me and it made me feel ashamed and guilty, and it would pop up years later. Well, you said that thing, you're the reason.
Yep.
So I feel like, and even with what you said, I feel like there's people out there that are just so sick in their own head, that they haven't begun to heal or whatever. Maybe they're trying, but they're so manipulative. They will push you and push you and push you. And I would get people that say awful, horrible things to me, wanting me to do what they did, say awful things, so that they could validate, see, she's a bitch too. Look, she's evil. Yeah. See, she said that one thing. That's the one thing they'll repeat forever and ever and ever. Even if they said 100 horrible things to me that I never repeated, because that's just not the kind of person I am. So, yeah, this is a great topic. I mean, I could spend hours on this, but we won't. So, another tip to the listeners: go to thishealthline.com. 12 tips to break a lying habit, and there's
cheating no good mother. No. It doesn't say that. I'm just kidding.
There's really great stuff out here. So there's types of lies: white lies, lies by omission, exaggerations, gray or subtle lies. I don't know what that is. Complete untruths. I call those like compulsive liars. Like this is instinctive.
Right.
But things that you can ask yourself, those triggers, like where are you? Like what environment are you in? Okay. That's a big thing for me, who's in my circle. Like, in recovery, I'm kind of open, a little too much sometimes. Yeah. But around some normies or family or whatever, that's a good question. Who are you with? Who are those people that are right by you? Or work is a big one, okay? This is keep your enemies closer, right? And then how do you feel, So really, there's a lot of things that I'm going to take with me, and I'll even give these to you if you'd like them, but that really, like the gut check thing. So for me, I know when I'm feeling icky in my stomach, I feel a little bit upset about something that I said. I need to figure out what it is, because I know it's my body's reaction to something, whatever. But I have called the person, like literally in the next 5 minutes of a conversation, I will pull that person aside and say, you know what, I lied to you. And they're like, wait, what? Okay, I didn't lie, but I wasn't fully honest.
That's lying.
Yes! Who's that? It's that, because
you didn't lie, tell them that you didn't lie.
I instinctively will just answer, because for me it's this horrible stupid thing that like my mind will disassociate when I'm threatened for whatever capacity, if it's fight or flight mode, and my mind will give you that quick answer to get you the fuck out of my face, right? But then if I realize, okay, I'm really not, there's not a safety issue here, and I do care about this person, whatever, might have just met them, but I don't want them to, whatever, I will pull them aside and say, okay, you know what I said wasn't fully honest, there's more to it, and I leave it open, like, so I really would like to have a conversation with you, but if you're done with me, we can be done, it's fine, but right. I didn't mean to be that way. And then I just highlighted, if you started lying, this is me. If you started lying to cope with a difficult childhood, for example, working through what you experienced could help you feel less of a need to lie. And like I literally think about my thinking. So like if I'm that first thought, right?
About thinking.
That second thought. Yes. I have to think about what I'm thinking. Like, why do I instinctively want to lie right here? So just take a minute. But the bottom line is, lying is a complex behavior that can serve a lot of functions. But at the end of the day, it usually doesn't do anyone any favors. And if you're finding it hard to be honest, either to others or yourself or both, consider reaching out. And one of the suggestions they say, is a therapist, but, for me, I wasn't ready for a therapist for a long time. So just in the rooms, finding those people that I felt comfortable with and trusted, and sponsoring, I found a great sponsor finally. That really was the point where I could start to heal and really be able to look at myself and be honest with myself. But it was really hard, as I beat myself up all the time. Okay. You ready? That wasn't too bad, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So this is memes time's my favorite time. So listeners, we're going to do the memes. I'm going to flash them live to you. Let me get them pulled up here. Right here. Okay. So, Rob, they're meant to be, most of them are funny. Late at night, I'm alone in the bed. This is my joy time. I just pick out the best meme, screenshot that shit. I'm like, it's got to be shared with someone. I used to share it in the middle of the night when I can't sleep to people, and they're like, stop fucking bugging me at 2 a.m., Bridge. Yeah. It's not that funny. It's not that serious. But these memes could be funny or inspirational or just like a light bulb aha thing for whatever reason. But I like to share them with someone live. So here we go. Okay. And, sorry, I forgot. I'm trying to make this show more stimulating to your ears. Here's the second. It's meme time! Okay. It's consistency. Okay, here we go. Meme number 1. I gotta make sure that I have them in the order that the listeners see them, so they actually make sense here. Now, you're going to hold my phone, but don't go too far ahead, okay? Okay, meme number 1. So if you could you don't have to go into details, but describe this picture and then read what the words say. Like you're, describe it to a person on the phone.
What if instead of trying to fix everyone else's problems, you tried You try to focus on solving your own. Me. I'll give it a try, but it sounds boring.
No, describe the picture. It's like a doctor pushing a patient in a wheelchair, right? Down the hallway.
Well, I mean, that's what it looks like, but, you know.
What's your first thoughts on this meme here, Rob?
You know, I don't know. I think of it as another Facebook meme, you know?
Yes, that's okay. It's not very stimulating. This is a warm-up meme, Rob.
Yeah.
So, would you even like it? Would you even give it a thumbs up?
Nope.
Nope, just scoop through it.
Nope.
Okay, here we go. 'Cause I like your honesty, Rob.
Yep.
This is a good thing. Okay, this is meant to be kind of deeper. You can just read those words.
So holding on to anger is like drinking poison, expecting the other person to die. Buddha. That's a pretty universal one. You know, that's something you learn early on when in recovery. Don't let nobody rent free space in your head.
Yeah.
Good luck pulling that off.
Yeah.
Good luck pulling that off. That's all I gotta say. Because I know some people that owe me some serious dough for the rent they've been fucking. You know what I mean? They owe me some rent money, man.
Oh yes. That's where those amends come into place. I find if they are taking up space continuously, that's when I need to pull someone aside, do some little inventory liability checklists of these things that are building up or have built up, and just get them all out.
Yeah.
And I usually feel better. They can let go
Depending on the individual.
Absolutely.
So some of them individuals could use that very same stuff to use as ammo for future attacks on you.
No, I meant a different person. I would have this four would be not with the person that I'm talking the fourth about. Okay.
So my introverted self questioning why I decided to have a career centered on me talking to people. Laughter, you dumb bitch.
Okay, I thought this was funny because what I do for a job is peer support, right?
Yeah.
And
so what do you think about that meme? That's what I'm asking you.
I thought it was hilarious because I'm more of what's weird. I'm extroverted
basically
sometimes.
Spoke to you.
It did. Well, introverted, and you kind of are quiet. I mean, I don't know you personally, but like anytime I've seen you around or whatever, you're not like this really outgoing, loud, bubbly person.
No, I don't like people.
I don't like most people, but I like people.
Yeah.
But for me, that's just kind of funny because sometimes my job is heavy, and I'm meeting people where they're at. Some are incarcerated, some are fresh out of treatment, some are in treatment, some have been in recovery for years and they just reused again, and it's heavy conversations some days, and there's just, they don't mean to be, but there's just energy vampires, and they just suck the energy out of me. And I have those days like, why me? And that's it. But I like the left part. It made me laugh when I was like, come on, you dumb bitch. You should have known what you signed up for.
Right.
Really? But that's why I needed to go for state this weekend, because being around all those people that have the similar mindsets and passion, and it really re-energized me and reinstilled in me, like, yes, I do love my recovery family. I do love doing this, and I'm so happy in it. It's cheesy. Made that cheesy. Okay. The next one. It's getting low. Okay. This is kind of funny.
Right, so
it's kind of funny. Be prepared. Who is that? Describe that picture.
Is that Fester? Is that what that
Yes,
is?
it is.
Fester, yeah. Fester in the Addams
Dark
family.
person.
When your dark humor actually slips in front of new people. That wasn't me.
Does that happen?
Yeah, all the time. Yeah, I definitely have a dark sense of humor. I think it's funny to joke about stabbing people and stuff. And, guys on the job site don't really think it's that funny.
Yep.
I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding.
And that's, what?
We're all joking over here, and then they're like, I don't know. They're trying to figure out if I'm telling the truth or not,
Traumatized.
Yeah. I'm just kidding, guys. Nobody's getting cut today, boys. Trying to get paid here.
Not today.
Yeah.
Not today.
Yeah, whoops.
I do, okay. All right. This one's great. Get ready. Okay, this is Nicolas Cage, but it could be any guy just looking in the...
When you post a controversial meme and it triggers the people it was meant to. And he's got a feeling of... He looks like the bliss on his face.
Here we go. Just keep holding his phone. This is set up for the next one. You ready? Here we go. Whoa! Read that one. It's just words.
I'm so tired of people running around with a mouthful of scripture and a heart full of hate.
Ooh.
Oh, that was a dart at somebody.
Yeah, right? It's dark humor,
all
Rob.
you religious fellas out there. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
No.
Yeah, no, that's
What do you think of that? What's your reaction? No reaction, but if you had to comment, what would you say to that?
Well, one thing I'll say is that usually the motherfucker that's talking needs to be the motherfucker that's listening.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Ooh,
Anytime I go to a meeting and I hear somebody that shares and shares and shares and shares the same meeting every time and says the same thing, is typically the most shadiest individual outside of the room.
Thank you.
You know, that's one thing I've noticed every time. It's like, oh yeah, you're a slick talker. Mm-hmm. You know, but you a lot of times you watch how they act outside the rooms, and it's like, well, what? Why putting on the front, man? Mm-hmm. You ain't gotta put nobody on Front Street here. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I mean, especially me. I'm a member of Narcotics Anonymous. Which whatever A you're a part of, or if you're not a part of, but we go through some shit. So it's depending on what your addiction looks like. A lot of us are, come in prostitutes, drug dealers, armed robbers, you name it, and we're just trying to figure out how to, live a somewhat normal functioning life. But the funny thing is that, like, you can take the addiction away from the addict, and that's not even that person, and that just goes to show how powerful that, like, the disease of addiction is, and I do believe it's a disease, which is, I've probably lost sleep over a debate of, whether it's a choice or a disease or blah, 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 I think it's a disease, and, whatever.
You would be correct. It's medically, it is declared a disease, so anybody that wants to debate about that, they can come right to me, because I do have the facts on that shit. Yeah, don't come to me,
I don't really care that much. But I mean, I see it a lot, and just like we were talking about earlier, that, like, if you're going to be sponsoring, man, like, have your shit on point.
Practice what you preach.
And I'll tell you what, man, I've watched some dudes around me, man, that I've watched, give people advice, and, fast forward, the same situation happens in their life, and all of a sudden they're nowhere to be found. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to answer the phone no more. They don't want to talk to nobody, because I'm like, hey, man, remember that one time that you told me to do this? Yeah. Well, about that, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it also, on my female side perspective is, I find that these it's great suggestions that I offer, that I tell they should do for themselves. It's hard sometimes to do that for myself. Like, you got to put yourself first. You got to take that time for yourself. You got to fill your cup. And like I said, it's a daily recovery thing. Is like, I got to remind myself of that shit, these things that I'm telling these women to do. Yeah. Because, like, yes, it works, and when I work it, right? But if I'm not working it. But mostly there's a lot of shit on Facebook, okay? Yeah. And I do know what goes on outside of Facebook. And it's unfortunate because they're hypocritical. These things that they say, and it's not just religious, whatever. Yeah. It's just, in any capacity, they're full of shit. Right. And there's like a meeting that I go to every whatever day. I'm not even going to disclose that because the person might be an attendee. But he constantly says, you got to do this and do that, work on your anger, and and he's fucking mad every time he says it. Don't work on your anger. You've got to go to your higher power, and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, why don't you go to your higher power? Your higher power is not working. Maybe find a new higher power, because I don't know what's going on. I don't ever see it. Okay, here's another one, just words. It's a little later. Oh, I forgot that I did this one. This might be inappropriate.
Driving down the road and saw my ex. It's funny how I hit that changes meaning over the years. That's funny.
Hit them with your car.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I'm glad I'm sober now. Please, no substances. But I tell you, you mix substance use and those emotions, anger on the wrong day, it could have been really bad. Okay. It's meant to be funny.
Love's a hell of a drug, man.
Yes, oh my gosh.
Tell you what.
It can be the worst or the best.
I have a happy personality with a heavy soul. Sometimes it gets weird.
It just gets weird.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us heathens in the rooms, the A's.
Yeah.
We're weird, but it's meant to be a good weird. We vibe with each other that way. But it is a lot because we have heavy souls, I think.
Yeah, most definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, last one. And I usually try to make it, I don't remember. Actually, I've just lost my train of thought. My head is mush. Last one.
Remember, you can always walk away. The game ends when you stop playing.
Boom, mic drop. What do you think of that one? Because that could be a lot of things. What comes to your mind, Rob?
You know, I don't know. It reminds me of relationships that I stayed in long past the expiration date. You know, because basically that's basically what it was. You know, so that's what comes to mind. You know, stop playing, walk away. You know, invest some time with some people who actually put in some effort to be a person in your life.
Yeah. Well, so I haven't been in a relationship for the longest it's ever been in my life. Over a year now. And I feel fantastic. So none of this really apply to me. Except for the ex hitting the car thing. That's kind of funny. But the great thing is, this one for me pertains to my friendships. Okay? Because, like, these ladies, you know, like, I invest a lot in them because I'm really trying to empower them. Just get them to just... I just want them to find that trusted with it. And it breaks my heart when... for whatever reason, they don't trust me. They think I'm after them mad or some silliness. As a single, I don't know why. This is whatever. I know it's within themselves. But it comes to a point, and now I have a person in my head. I've done nothing but show love to this girl. And literally, a mutual male friend of ours, he's not thinking about any kind of weirdness. But he'll be like, hey, so, I'm not going to say your name. We're going bowling. You want to come? Or volleyball or whatever it is. I'm like, sure, cool, sounds fun. And I forget that she hates me secretly. I feel like she hates me. I don't know. I can't read minds. But literally the last time I seen her, again, we're walking up, she sees him, and they're smiling, and then she sees me, and she gives me the fucking steak face. Like, what is this bitch doing here? And I'm like, we're friends. We're supposed to be friends. I don't want him. I know this is single. But it sucks. But, you know, but that's at the point where then I just realize... she's not ready to be my friend. And she doesn't want to be my friend right now. So it's going to be what it's going to be. But maybe she'll change her mind. But I'm not going to invest any more of this made-up friendship I think we have. And the reality is it's just not that. It's not like that. And unfortunately, to go further with it in the past, you know, these women these girls I thought were my friends, find out they're talking shit behind my back. But to my face, they're like, oh, you can trust me. We're good. And then they're just saying bad things about me. And it breaks my heart. So that, for me... any relation, whatever capacity, this is like straight on. Like there's a book I read, Melanie. She really pointed out to me like the things that are happening to you are things that you're willing to accept.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I ended my relationship, because I realized the shit that I kept putting up with because I was trying to support this person, because I could be this unconditionally loving person. This person was going to continue to fucking push those lines and boundaries and not take me seriously because I was allowing it. Which I read that I was like, holy fuck. That was the moment I'm like, I'm not accepting that. I'm not playing this fucking game anymore. It's dead. You know, it was hard. I walked away from it, but I realized if I respect myself enough and I'm making this promise to myself, I'm breaking promises to myself. And how am I going to respect myself if I continuously allow this to happen? So yeah, that was a aha moment. But anyway, I'm sorry I talk a lot when I get excited. Well, thank you, Rob. Is there any final words of wisdom? Okay, can I just ask you a question?
Sure.
Now, I'm curious, how many, I don't care, like, current, because there's so many, whatever ways that you can call, that you have sponsees, right? Which, for me, I don't have, like, this actual number, because, you know, the steps are on their own timeline.
Yeah.
But when I start sponsoring someone, whether they like it or not, I tell them, even if you fire me, I'm still unconditionally going to be here. So... just so you know, I'm always going to be your sponsor, one of your sponsors. But I don't ever, like, you know, those are the people that sit down with me at least once, not the randoms and we exchange numbers. That don't count.
Yeah.
But how many sponsees would you say that you've tried to guide or whatever? I know there's a big number there. Probably 10 of my friends have called you their sponsor.
Probably, it's in the hundreds.
That's the see, I knew it.
I'd say, I mean... guys that I've actually sat down with, maybe 50, you know. Mm-hmm. Guys that have continuously utilized me as their sponsor, 2.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's
so, I mean,
true.
there's a whole lot of lines to it, you know.
Yes.
And here's the deal, too, is that, like, you know, life gets busy, and I know that, too. So, you know, and, you know, a lot of guys are like, yeah, man, that's my sponsor. And I'm like, okay, and we've done how many steps together?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But and here's the deal too. That's one of the good things about the program is that like I'm not right, and neither are they. You know what I mean? So, you know, and I've been proven wrong on that too. I've got a sponsee that hasn't worked a step, and he's out there doing huge things.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and obviously it's anonymous. I'm not going to put him on blast on, you know, this podcast, but he's also showed me that, like, okay, I was wrong, because I was like, man, you ain't going to make it if you don't start working these steps. You know what I'm saying? And, like, you know, I mean, he's made it pretty far, and he's done a lot of things, you know, and it's just like, and don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating not working the steps, but
everybody's different.
You know, exactly. You know what I'm saying? I also know guys who's, you know, there was a dude that prior to COVID, he went to 90, and 90s. The dude went to a meeting every day, and that was his recovery. That was it. That's all he did. He went to a meeting every day. He didn't have a sponsor. He didn't work steps. He's still been clean. I haven't heard from him in a while. I don't know, but... You know, who knows? You know, I can't sit here and say that. Like, I know for me that, like, I just didn't know how to live life without the use of drugs and alcohol. So I needed these steps as a guideline on how I should live my life, because I have no idea on how to do that. You know, so, yeah, again, I'm not going to promote being in a 12-step program and not working the 12 steps.
Right.
You know, unless you're going to be in some other form of program, then that's cool too, you know.
Well, they'll call that bullshit out right away.
Yeah.
Because I've had 4 sponsors, and it wasn't their fault or whatever reasons. It was me. But my sponsor, too, would say, she always says this to me, because she's my sponsor, whether she likes it or not. But she's always like, Bridget, I didn't really do anything, though. You kind of did everything on yourself. But what she didn't realize is she gave me this gift of, like, she believed in me. She fucking believed in me. I didn't ever have to defend myself. I didn't ever have to feel like I had to hide. It's just that one person that unconditionally loved and, like, just said they would be there for me was all that I needed, you know? And, like, I worked those steps in my own ways, and like, I knew I could always go to her. That's the thing. Like, if I had questions, or once I started sponsoring, like, she's always been there. That she can, you know, reasonably. She, you know, I invite her to stuff, and I'm like, oh, she probably won't make it. She always makes it. Like, you know, she's just so wonderful. But, like, in reality... I think you're right. Like, every person and walk of life is going to be different.
Yeah.
And I think the labels are the labels. But really, for me, it's just being that person that I'm just going to be here, you know. And when you're ready, I'm going to be here. If you go back out, I'm still going to be here. I'm not going to give up on you, because those people that gave up on me that I almost didn't make it.
Right.
So, yeah. Right. I say, that's pretty awesome. I give you props for that. And like you said, you might not feel like you did much, but just something you said, or an action, or just something might be something that person never ever had. And that's what they needed, you know, just one moment, person thing. So I commend you, and I'm inspired by you, Rob. And it's funny now. It's kind of a joke. I think we have a mutual friend, Matt. He's like, oh, this is my buddy here. And he knew of 3 people, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's like this mafia family of, you're the godfather, Rob. It's a beautiful family. Don't mess with the family either, that's the reality. All right, so I'm rambling. My head is mush. Go for stage shout out. That shit was amazing, and a lot. The next year I got pro tips on some things, but wonderful, beautiful recovery family. And you have a good day. You off tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Oh, good for you. Okay, hopefully everybody's off tomorrow. I am off tomorrow, technically. We're still doing some things, but everybody have a great rest of your night. I hope you had a great weekend and a great week, and I will sign off. Oh, I always forget. I got music. So even if my podcast sucks, the music's inspirational. All right, good night, everybody.